Well, I greet you this morning in the name of my wonderful Savior, sanctifying, healing, and soon coming Christ. As you're turning once again to Exodus chapter 20, it's always good to be invited to go away to sing or to preach. And I had a good week last week at camp with the Keatons, and they wanted me to tell you hello, but it's always great to be back home. And so I heard that Melvin did a great job last week while I was away, and everything went smoothly. And it's so nice to know that as a pastor, when you're away, that you can trust the people that you leave in charge. And so I trust Wayne with I guess, my life even. Trust you with my church, definitely. So, but thank you for being here, and I heard that you guys had a great service. I did want to tell you one thing before we dive into Exodus 20. This Make the Most card. You guys are allowed to get more than one. We ordered 100. So if you want to take one to put in your Bible, and you want to take one to put in your car, and you want to take one to put on your desk at work, if you want to take just a couple of them so that you have them as reminders all over, take some more, because we still have plenty. And so I wanted just to let you know that you are allowed to take more than one. So if you want to take a couple and place at different points in your life, that's fine. Just grab them on the way out. Exodus chapter 20, we are beginning to wind down the summer series on the 10 Commandments. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 15 is where we're at today. I want to invite you to stand with me as we read God's Word together. One very short verse, only 4 words. This is what it says. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 15. These are the words of Almighty God. You shall not steal. The title of the message is, What's Mine is God's. Let's pray. Father, we come before you today, God, and we thank you for the opportunity to be in your house. Lord, I thank you for your sweet, sweet spirit that is here in this place. And Lord, I ask that you would be honored and glorified by the reading and the preaching of your word today. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Everyone knows that stealing is wrong. Even people who aren't Christians, people who don't read the Bible, people who didn't grow up in church, everybody knows that stealing is wrong. We have laws against stealing. There are penalties for theft, penalties for stealing. And so everybody, all races, all tribes, all nationalities, all people on the face of planet Earth know that stealing is wrong. To steal is to take something that does not belong to you. The Hebrew word for stealing literally means this: to carry something away as if by stealth. To steal is to appropriate someone else's property unlawfully. It's pretty basic, it's pretty understanding what it means not to steal. What the 8th commandment forbids is very simple. However, many people fail to understand its full meaning. This Hebrew word that I won't bore you with, one reason is because I don't know how to say it. But the other reason is because it's not really that important. But the Hebrew word, the original Hebrew word covers all types of theft. So the Hebrew word that is used here in verse 15 of Exodus chapter 20 does not refer to just one kind of theft, just one kind of stealing, if you will, but it refers to all types of theft. Let me take you down the list. Burglary means breaking into a home or building to commit theft. Robbery, taking property directly from another using violence or intimidation. Larceny, taking something without permission and not returning it. Hijacking, using force to take goods in transit or seizing control of a bus, truck, or plane. Shoplifting, taking items from a store during business hours without paying for them. Pickpocketing and purse snatching, you know what those things are. It also covers a wide variety of exotic or complex thefts that we might not hear about or see in everyday life. The 8th commandment also covers embezzlement. Embezzlement is the fraudulent taking of money or other goods entrusted to one's care. Extortion, getting money from someone by means of threats or misuse of authority. It also covers racketeering, obtaining money by any illegal means. This is only part of the list of the many ways that people break the 8th commandment. They pilfer public property, stealing supplies from hospitals, building sites, and even churches. In fact, when I was preparing this, I preached through this series about 1.5 years ago, so this statistic might be a little bit old, but I think it's very informative and it will probably blow your mind. In fact, One hotel reported in their very first year of business having to replace 38,000 spoons, 18,000 tiles. Why somebody would steal a tile is beyond me. But apparently somebody stole 18,000 tiles. I hope it wasn't the same person. But the hotel had to replace 18,000 tiles, 355 coffee pots, and this is my absolute favorite. The hotel also had to replace 100 Bibles. Wow. You know, you go into a hotel and they're in the side, in the nightstand, the Gideons, they place Bibles in there. They had to replace 100 Bibles. It's my prayer that those people that stole the Bibles began to read, and they hit Exodus 20, verse 15, and they saw the error of their ways. They gave their heart to Christ, and then they came back and gave their Bibles back to the Hilton or Holiday Inn or whoever that they were. But they even stole 100 Bibles. Citizens steal from the government by underpaying their taxes or making false claims for disability or Social Security. The government steals too by wasting public money and by accumulating debt with no plan to pay it back. In 2008, we had in January of 2009, our national debt was $10 trillion. There was a man that was running for president in 2008. He said it was unpatriotic and un-American and irresponsible to run up such a debt. I want you to know that the national debt today is $19 trillion. In January 2017, this president will leave office accumulating a $20 trillion national debt. In the past 8 years, we will have doubled our national debt from the beginning of our country. Even those in authority, even our government steals money. There is theft at work, people reporting false time cards. They call in sick when they just want a day off. They take office supplies. They make personal long-distance phone calls on the company's dime. They surf the internet. They email friends. They shop. They get on Facebook when they should be working. They play games on their computer. I even heard one time, this is many years ago, in the state of Michigan, that many offices got rid of solitaire on their computer because solitaire was taking so much of their employees' time that the work was not being completed. Businesses even steal from their employees. They demand longer hours without paying them overtime. They reorganize their workforce to improve profits and give their employees the job of somebody that was laid off without compensating them further. Other forms of stealing, price gouging, false advertising, salesman exaggeration. You ever buy a car from somebody that says, this is a great car, but you need to buy the warranty? You ever had that happen? How about this? This happened to me not long ago. I bought a car. On the way home, the light came on. We called. We said, hey, this light just came on. They said, you just bought it. Nothing I can do about it. Needless to say, I will not be shopping at Sugar Motor Mile anymore. Credit card theft and accounts. Identity theft, insurance fraud, duplication of movies and music. A lot of times we don't think about that. Hey, can you burn me a CD? Can you burn me a copy of that? Really, that's stealing. Those artists, those people worked hard to write those songs, to perform those songs, and when we don't buy them outright, and I've been guilty of this too, I have burned CDs in my car. We don't buy them outright. We're taking money out of the people's pockets that would have earned royalties when we would have bought. We don't think about stuff like that. Even movies and music. And how about this one? Even plagiarism. People get in trouble in school. People get expelled from college for plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you take something that somebody else has written and you claim it as your own. You're stealing their words. You're stealing their thoughts. You're stealing their work. So even plagiarism is a form of stealing. The problem is that almost everybody is breaking the 8th commandment. And as a matter of fact, George Barna did some research in evangelical Christian circles. 90% of evangelical Christians claim that they never break the 8th commandment. This shows that even Christians have forgotten what it means to steal. If everyone else is stealing and has become the social norm, what is so wrong with stealing? Why can't we just do it? Well, first of all, because God said, thou shalt not steal. And that ends the discussion right there. But on top of that, even more than that, Whenever we take something that doesn't belong to us, however we do it, we are sinning against God, and we are also sinning against our neighbor. Stealing is a sin against God in two ways. You know it's a sin, but it's a sin in two ways. Here's how. Number one, every theft is a failure to trust His provision. Every theft is a failure to trust His provision. God has said, I will supply all of your needs according to my glorious riches through Christ Jesus in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 13. Now, I don't know about you, but the God that I serve owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. The God that I serve lives in a place with streets that are made of pure gold, with gates that are made of pearl, with a sea of crystal. He owns everything, and He promised that He will supply all of our needs according to His great riches. That doesn't mean that He's going to supply all of our wants, but God has been so good to me, and He's been so good to you, hasn't He? God has supplied all of our needs. There is nobody here, I doubt, that is lacking anything of need in your life. And if you are lacking something in need, I want you to know that God has promised, and God will always come through. He has never broken a promise. He has promised that He will supply all of your needs. Yeah. And whenever we commit theft, we are not trusting God's provision. Because He said, I will supply all of your needs. We're living in a day and age when people, they get needs and wants greatly confused. What do we need? We need a roof over our head. We need food to eat. We need clothes. We need a way to provide for our family. Other than that, what do you need? Do you need DirecTV or Cox Cable? It's not something that we need. God may not give you everything that you want, but He will supply all of your needs. And I will tell you this, the God that I serve is a gracious God, and I will only speak for Him, but God has always supplied every one of my needs, and He has given me much, much, much of everything that I want as well. Amen. But when we don't trust God, when we steal, every theft is a failure to trust His provision. Number two, stealing is a sin against God. Number two, every theft is an assault on God's providence to others. God provides for you, God provides for me, and God provides for everything else. But any time that we take something that God has provided for somebody else, it is an assault on God's providence to that other person. It robs what God has provided for somebody else. And so we are not only sinning against God, but we are also sinning against our neighbor as well. So you might not think that the 8th commandment is that important, or you may not think that stealing something is really that big of a deal, but it is a big deal because it is a sin not only against God, but it is a sin against your neighbor as well. The 8th commandment isn't only about stealing. It is also about stewardship. A steward is someone who cares for someone else's property. He is not free to use it however he pleases, but only to manage it in accordance with his master's intention. This is our situation exactly. Whatever we possess is God's property, and He has given us this sacred trust of looking after it. What God has given us really is not ours at all. What God has given us was His to begin with, is His while He entrusted to us, and is His afterwards as well. And God gives us these things to be managers, to be stewards of them. And so it's not only about stealing, but it's also about being a good steward of what God has given us. It has been this way since the very beginning of time. When God created the Garden of Eden, the beautiful, perfect place of the Garden of Eden, and He placed Adam in the garden, He did not turn over the title and the keys to the Garden of Eden to Adam. He placed Adam in the garden to take care of it. This is what Genesis chapter 2 and 15 says. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden to work it and to care for it. God didn't turn over everything to Adam. It was still God's. But God entrusted to Adam to look after, to work, and to take care of. And so God expects us to be good stewards of what he gives us as well, because remember, everything comes from him and everything is his in the end anyway. And so what does it mean to be a good steward? Being a good steward means, number one, taking care of what you have been given. Taking care of what you have been given. I don't know about you, but raising children, especially boys, it's hard to get through their heads about taking care of things. Maybe it's different with girls, I don't know. But it seems that there's something in my house that gets broken all the time. You laugh, you think it's funny. You want me to come to your house and break stuff? The stuff gets broken all the time. And we try to instill in the children that you need to be responsible. You need to be respectful of somebody else's property. Well, it's really a shame what has happened to Bill Cosby. I hate that, and really I hope it's not true. But the Cosby Show of the 80s and 90s, what a great show. It's still a great show, even if it's a little tainted. But I remember one time, I think he was talking to Theo, and he said, he was talking to Vanessa, and Vanessa was complaining because she said, all the kids at school, they say I'm rich. And he said, Vanessa, let me tell you something. He said, you are not rich. Your mother and I are rich. He said, you have nothing. And it's the same way with our children at home. That's what I say to them. Listen, you can't eat in the car, but I can because I pay the bill. You can't eat on our white couch. You can't drink on our white couch, but I can because I pay the bill. So when you want to start making the payments, you're free to do whatever you want. But taking care of what God has given us is a matter of stewardship. God has been so good to us. I don't live in the greatest house on the face of the earth. I don't even like my house. I really want to move. But at this point, this is what God has given us, and so we need to take care of it. We need to take care of the cars that we drive and everything that he has entrusted to us. And so how do we take care of it? We take care of things by not allowing them to fall into disrepair. We take care of things by not being wasteful, by not squandering what God has given us. And let me take this a step further than just talking about us and our individual lives. How about us as a church as well? This coming, I think it's October or November, we will have been in this building 5 years. You guys have been in this building longer than I've been with you. What a great building. What a great building. What a beautiful building to worship in and to grow together in. But God has given us this building. It's not our building, it's God's building, and God expects us to take care of it. The trustees, they do a great job with maintaining the inside and outside of this building as well as the grounds. That's the job of the trustees of the church, is to take care of the church building inside and out and also the grounds of the church. That's their responsibility. And they do a really, really great job with that. And I'm so thankful for them. And I try to thank them on a fairly regular basis for what they do because it's not easy to manage all this. But you and I have responsibility as well in helping to take care of what God has given us in the house of God. Being a good steward means taking care of what he has given us. Being a good steward also means working hard. We're living in a day and age where there seems to be no value in work. There seems to be no value in getting a job. People, they would rather find ways not to have to work than to go out there and work and to provide for their family. I'm not exactly sure why this is taking place. It's very frustrating to me. But God has made us to work. We could go back to the garden as well. God put Adam in the garden, not only to take care of it, but to work the garden. And so God expects us to work. And so working hard means that we are a good steward of what he has given us. Laziness leads to poverty, according to Proverbs chapter 6. In Proverbs chapter 30, we read that poverty leads to a temptation to steal. So it's important that we are hard workers. Being a good steward also means giving away what God has given us. We have talked that God has given us everything that we have, and that God expects us not to hold everything to ourselves, but he wants us to share it with others. He wants us to give it away. Now, if it comes down to a need of your family or giving it away, I believe that God would want you to take care of your family first. So you take care of your family first. But God is a generous God, isn't he? All that he has given us. And he expects us to be a generous people and even a generous church. And so being a good steward means giving away what God has given us. Jeff Bridges observed 3 basic attitudes about possessions. Here they are. The first one is, what's mine is mine. What's yours is mine, I'll take it. This is the attitude of the thief. The second one is, what's mine is mine, I'll keep it. This is a selfish attitude. Many people in our society, many people even in the church, this is their attitude. What's mine is mine, I will keep it. But here is the best one, number 3. What's mine is God's. I'll share it. And this is the godly attitude. Christians are called to be generous. We don't work to simply satisfy our own desires, but to provide for others. One of our core values here at Jordantown Wesleyan is a core value of generosity. And I have been so thankful and so proud of our church over the past year or so of how we have given. I think back to Angel Tree in December for Stewartsville. We had never done anything like that before. We started off with 15 angels, and I had to go back and ask for more, and they gave us 10 more. And we fulfilled 25 angels for Angel Tree, and there were still people that were wanting to give, but we had run out of time. We had given so much. I think about the offering that we gave for the V team, the Van Steenbergs, their missionaries to Central America last year. I think about the offering that we just gave to the West Virginia recovery and all of the flood. You guys gave just under $2,500, and the church matched it, and I took a $5,000 check to district conference to give toward that. And I think God is pleased with that. And I think about what we're doing with the school. This school is a part of our community. And we're gathering supplies for them and also for Renew Nation, because there are many children out there that don't have the funds to be able to provide their basic needs in school. Or maybe they do at the beginning of the school, but once after Christmas, the second part of the school year, they would have nothing. And so our church, you guys, are being the hands and the feet of Jesus to show children that come from a broken home, that show children that come from a broken and a dysfunctional environment, the love of Jesus Christ through your generosity. And I just want to say thank you. As your pastor, I want to thank you for your love, for your giving heart, and for your generosity. And God desires for us to be a generous people. John Wesley said this: make all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. The last thing I want to talk to you about this morning is we talk about theft, talk about stealing. It's how we sometimes steal from God. Pastor, how can we steal from God? We steal from God in ways that you know and ways that you maybe don't even know. The first, obviously, is by not paying our tithe. God has asked all Christians to give a tenth of everything that he gives them back to his work. Now remember, everything comes from God, and so he can easily say, I want you to give me 90% and you keep 10% of yourself. But what God says is, I'll let you keep 90%, but I want you to give 10% back to me and to my work and to my kingdom so that my name can go forward. And so many times people don't live up to their end of the bargain. God always lives up to his. God always provides. God provides even to people who don't know him. Even to people that aren't Christians, God provides lovingly and generously even to those people. And all God asks is for a tenth back. And when we don't give a tenth back, you aren't hurting me. You might be hurting your church a little bit, but ultimately you are hurting God and you are hurting your relationship with God. Amen. I'm not after your money. I don't need your money. God is the one who asks for you to give, not me. And so we rob God by not giving of our tithes and our offerings. Listen to Malachi chapter 3 and verse 8. Will a mere mortal rob God? Yet you rob me. You ask, how are we robbing? In tithes and offerings. You are under a curse, your whole nation, because you are robbing me. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the stories and the testimonies of people who don't give. And then they decide, oh, it's time for me to start giving. I need to start giving, and they're nervous about giving. because they don't know how things are going to be met. It's amazing. Every time I have heard somebody share the story about how they weren't a tither and then they became a tither, how God blessed their finances, how God blessed their home, and how they never went without anything. There was always food on the table. There was always enough money to pay the bills. And I believe that when we honor God, He honors us.
Amen.
So we steal from God by not paying our tithes and our offerings. But we also steal from God by not giving Him the best of our time and our talent. Every talent that you have comes from Almighty God. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player in the history of the world. And as a Detroit Pistons fan, I hate to admit that. But it's true. Michael Jordan is the greatest player I've ever seen. But Michael Jordan couldn't do squat without the talents that God gave him.
Right.
And God has given all of you talents as well. He has given all of you talents and abilities and a place to serve on this team. And a place to serve in getting in the game of winning people to Christ and discipling them. There are things that God has given you that nobody else can do. There are talents and abilities and visions and dreams and passions that God has instilled in you and nobody else. And it's your part to play. But we steal from God and we rob God when we hoard and we keep our talents and everything that He has given us, when we keep them to ourselves. There is a place for you to serve. But more importantly than that, there is a place for you to minister to others. And we steal from God when we hoard those things to ourselves, when we fail to develop our talents and abilities to the highest potential, or when we waste our time. We steal from God, number 3, by not obeying His laws and thus denying Him our obedience. We steal from God when we don't obey His laws, and that robs Him of our obedience. Every violation of the 10 Commandments involves some kind of theft. Every violation. You think that the 8th commandment is just about the 8th commandment. But the 8th commandment has a string that runs throughout the other 9 commandments. Let me share this with you. Every violation of the 10 commandments involves a kind of theft. Here it is. Having other gods or bowing down to other idols steals God's worship. Not honoring the Sabbath steals His holy day. Murder steals life. Adultery steals purity. Lying steals truth. Every sin that we commit dishonors God and steals the glory that our lives ought to give Him. And so He says, you shall not steal. Would you bow your heads with me? Close your eyes. As we close this service, as we close the 8th commandment, the command is very simple: you shall not steal. And when we came in the house this morning, we probably thought we understood what that meant, not to steal. But this command of not stealing encompasses so much more than breaking and entering or holding a gun to somebody. I'm afraid that probably a lot of us steal things that we don't even realize. Maybe it's when we're not giving our best effort at work. Maybe it's not giving our best effort to God. Maybe it's taking small things that you think nobody else will notice. Here's the thing: nobody else may notice, but God does. God sees all and God knows all. And He has commanded us not to steal. He will provide all of our needs according to His glorious riches through Christ Jesus. And so as we close, this is what I want us to do. I'm not going to give a formal altar call invitation. But I am going to give you a chance to respond. I think it's important that any time the word is preached, there's a chance to respond, whether it's up front or even in your seat. So this is what I would say. If you would say, Pastor Matt, pray for me, because I have realized there are some things in my life that maybe I've been stealing and didn't even realize I was stealing. I'm not doing it on purpose. I wouldn't consider myself a thief, but I realize now that there are some things that I have done or things that I've been involved in that ultimately were breaking the 8th commandment. I just want you to pray for them. Would you just lift up your hand where I can see them? Yep, I see those hands. Anyone else? Yep. Hands all over. Anyone else? Yep, I see those hands. I see that hand. Anyone? Yep, I see that hand. Anyone else? Yep, I see this one. Anyone else? Let's stand together. Lord, we come before you today, God, and we repent of our shortcomings. God, for how we have failed you, when we have failed you, where we have failed you, God, for taking things that didn't belong to us, no matter how big or how small. And God, we repent of that. Lord, I ask that you would help us to be mindful of our actions. God, with other people, or when other people are paying attention or when they're not. And I ask that you would help us to be a people that keep the 8th commandment. Lord, help us to be a people that trust you, that trust your provision to supply all of our needs. And God, if we are needing something that we see that maybe you're not supplying in the way that we think that you should, or how that we think that you should, Lord, I ask that you would help us, rather than to take matters into our own hands. God, help us to find a place of prayer and to cry out to you about it. Lord, help us to be a people that trust you with everything that we have to supply every need. God, help us to be pure in thought and in deed. Lord, help us to be people that live with pure hearts. But I ask that you would help us, God, as we leave this place. Dismiss us from your sanctuary of worship, God, but not your presence. I ask that you will go forth with us, God, as we leave this place into a new week. God, I thank you for allowing each of us to be a part of this day. Be with us, God. Help us to continue to grow in our relationship with you. Help us to be determined and conscious about witnessing for you, God. Lord, we love you and we praise you and we worship you and we thank you for everything that you've done for us. In Jesus' name. And all God's people said, amen. Let's roll.
Thank you.
See you next week.